The play Howl In Makhanda is a semi-autobiographic work that puts a spotlight on a group of black and white South African teenagers at an elite all-girls boarding school who break the rules and narrate how the disciplinary board deals with each of them differently. Written and directed by Magnet Theatre EPWP, Intern Qondiswa James, the production is set to premiere tomorrow evening and will run up until the 29th of January. Well, our guest is with us from our studios in Sea Point, Cape Town, to tell us more about this project. Qondiswa, it is great to have you on the show. Thank you so much for making time. And now tell us about this play and where you got the inspiration to write it.
Thank you so much for having me. So when I was 17, I was the group of girls. And when I arrived at my new school, I got expelled, other people got suspended, other people remained in the school. And when I got to the new school, I spent a really long time in email correspondences with my friends who had been involved in the expulsion. And from that, like when I was in matric, I made a piece of work. And then in 2018, I was invited to submit a play script to the Canadian African Women's Playwriting Competition. And then last year, I got an opportunity to do a reading, right, and get some feedback and develop it. And so this is where we are this year. But it's a deeply personal thing. It's my own experience and my analysis and critique of my adolescence. So it's a coming-of-age story, and it really looks at the experience of especially black girls, but girlhoods in private schools in South Africa, which I feel like is something that's not often explored. So it's been interesting to talk about these things in new ways, especially with like the emergent politics in South Africa today around race and class and gender and identity in general.
Now the production, as you say, explores issues around race, class and gender and of course identity. Take us through why these themes were so important to you.
So when I was in school, I think as many of us, like, I was quite involved in the experience of being there, right? And then when I get to university, especially being part of the student movements, then you go back over the past with a fine-tooth comb and you realize that the things that you come to have language for when you're in varsity are actually articulating the experiences that you already had when you were in high school, especially because I went to like a 80% white, very like upper middle class kind of boarding school. So to go back and look at this and to say, I did have experiences of racism, I did have experiences of gender discrimination, I did have experiences of not being able to disclose my sexuality, and that like in kind of this arena of still trying to figure out who you are in adolescence, there is also a repressive mode which is like kind of willing like the growth of individual children into being like a cookie cutter mold. So in a way, I think like I'm also trying to ask of students, like high school scholars, to like really thoroughly be involved in their own analysis, right? And not to just listen to what either the teachers tell them or what the peers tell them, because that's often like quite a big thing, right? But to understand that their experiences of being there are not just valid, but are true. And that they will find language as they go on. And I mean, identity making is like, is an ongoing process. We're still involved in it now, you know? But then to shine the light on high schoolers and say that like, high school students also have agency and autonomy in this identity making process, and that even the way that the schools are run, the hierarchies of schools in general, which sometimes don't allow students to immediately have a voice, or students can only have their voice if they're particular ways, if you're the clever kid, or when we ask you to, otherwise, you know, be silent and not heard, you know. But to say that there's value in that, in listening to students and their experiences, and in us using that information to try and create a better school environment, a friendlier school environment that's conducive to actually more kind of like liberatory politics, you know, and student autonomy.
Talk to us about the cast and crew that are part of this production and how you sort of went about finding them. And also let us know about where people can catch this production.
Lovely. So there are 5 actors in this work. Yamgela Ndendiyo, Amay Stradom, Megan Theron, Kim Adonis, and Zukisani Nongogo. About half of them I was at UCT Drama School with, in like graduating years with them. And one of them is actually somebody who was my student last year at City Varsity. So they're both kind of emerging theatre practitioners, theatre actors. So it's been really interesting working on the floor with them and still understanding that like there's still something to teach there, because when you're in process, I feel like as a theatre maker, that's actually what's for you, and then when you put the work out there, that's what's for the audience, right? But working with the actors, they've been just incredibly giving, and they're very, very beautiful performers and really willing to go with me, to travel with me back to my past, to really open themselves about what was your experience of your childhood and adolescence, your teenagehood, and really like excited also to share this work, you know. So I trust them completely in carrying my story. So if people are interested, the tickets are online on web tickets, but also people can email nomsa@magnettheatre.com, nomsa, Nomsa, or call Magnet Theatre at 021-448-3436. And otherwise, if you can follow us on Facebook, Magnet Theatre, and there's an event which is called Howl In Makhanda, and it will be running from the 20th to the 29th, mostly at 7:30 in the evenings, and there'll be 2 matinees as well.
All right, Qondiswa, thank you so much. That's all we have time for. Thank you for tackling the issue of race, class, and identity in such a creative way.